Open up the depths of your heart to find eternity and live for more than your eyes can see. Give God the glory for all eternity.
Our next figure of speech is the hyperbole. Sounds a little like a medical procedure, but don't worry, because it's really very simple. A hyperbole magnifies something beyond reality to make a point. The exaggeration is never intended to be believed, like the fisherman's story of the one that got away. It has two intentions. Number one, it emphasizes a point, and number two, it makes that point memorable. We usually think of exaggeration as nothing more than a lie, but it's actually a valid figure of speech. If you said that someone was as strong as an ox, you wouldn't be considered a liar because the exaggeration made a point in a valid way. This is a hyperbole, and that one is actually built on a simile, like a ox. The author or speaker never really intends the exaggeration to be taken literally. However, it is clear that an exaggeration is being used. The Lord told Israel that all who went to Egypt would meet their end until they were completely gone, Jeremiah 44:27. That this was hyperbole becomes apparent by the fact that some would actually return, stated in the next verse, verse 28. The Lord also spoke of those who went into exile as never returning to see their native land, Jeremiah 22:10. But we know that some who went out did return. The point is that there would be so few that it would be as though none of them returned. Hyperbole was used by the spies to illustrate how small the Israelites were in relation to the sons of Anak. This is in Numbers 13:33. If the Israelites were literally as grasshoppers in comparison, they wouldn't have even come up to the ankles of their enemies. That Abraham's descendants would be as the dust of the earth in numbers, Genesis 13:16, was never intended to convey an exact accounting of final population figures. However, it does establish a wonderful point. John wrote, "And there are also many other things that Jesus did, which if they were written one by one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that would be written." Amen. That's in John 21:25. Well, even if you wrote down everything Jesus did and said for 30 years, this wouldn't be possible. Include every breath he took, the beating of his heart, the menus of his meals, and the most comprehensive of biographies would not do this in 30 years, let alone 3 years. The author is making a point about the amount of material that's not included in his gospel. Notice how memorable the point he emphasizes truly is. This is why the hyperbole is so powerful. Our next figure of speech is personification. Personification is a figure of speech that gives living characteristics to things which ordinarily would not have them, and human characteristics to other living beings, even God. There are 6 classifications of personification: the human body, animals, produce of the earth, inanimate things, bounded territories or nations, and human actions attributed to inanimate things. These allow an author to make a point which is clear to the reader because of personal experience in the world around him. For example, the expression, "the eyes of the Lord," makes sense to us because we need eyes to see. Personification might also give exciting descriptions, like the earth opening its mouth to swallow rebellious people in Numbers 16:31 and 32. Like many figures of speech, personification allows a vivid picture to be raised in the reader's mind, which not only makes a powerful point, but also makes that point memorable. We know that inanimate objects can't get drunk, but the Lord said, "I will make my arrows drunk with blood," Deuteronomy 32:42. The reference obviously draws upon copious amounts required to bring about the result of drunken arrows. So the arrows will be partaking of great amounts of blood. Days are not capable of worrying, And yet Jesus said, therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Matthew 6:34. Well, days can't worry, but the personification makes its point. Well, our time is up. I want to thank you for studying with me. In our next video, we'll be talking about a figure of speech called a prolepsis. Sounds a little painful, but I assure you it's not. I hope you'll join me for that study.